Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now about 5 commanders who are in line for a big salary decision after the season. So that's up on ESPN.com. So give that a read. And it's a topic that Bram and I are going to be talking about next week in more detail. So stay tuned for that next week. By the way, next week I will be starting 2 podcasts a week only for several weeks until we get into training camp. Training camp is less than a month away at this point. So I'll be doing 2 a week. People are on vacation. I don't want to BS you guys about things that we're talking about and make things, just kind of, throw some BS out there. So we're going to go down to 2 a week until the start of training camp, at which point it will be every day. So you'll get enough from me at that point, and you'll get tired of me, I'm sure, shortly thereafter. But that's when the fun begins. So stay tuned. So again, I'll have 2 next week, starting next week. In a minute, I'll be joined by Eric Bickel from the Junkies on 106.7 The Fan. I wanted to bring EB on. I've been a guest on their show for many years. Love going on there. But also, EB's been a longtime fan. So he's got multiple perspectives from a radio talk show guy to also a fan. So just some perspective in how things have changed over the years, where the level of hope is and why. I think we know a lot of those reasons, but also some memorable guests they've had over the years. A good conversation with EB, really enjoyed it. So stay tuned for that. Before I get there, just 1 or 2 things. For you club members, I'm putting out a summer series talking about some various players I've covered in the past. Already talked about Bruce Smith, Sean Taylor. Be doing a couple more over the next few weeks. So if you want to become a club member, go to the Empire Media YouTube page, see the word join, click on that, go from there. Now, the last thing is with the stadium. Now, there's that July 15th deadline looming over the stadium, and the DC Council has to approve the RFK proposal, the agreement between the team and the city. They have to approve that. They also want to take that out of the budget and view that as a separate entity, something the team does not want to happen because they want them to approve it right as soon as possible. It's also possible that they could approve the budget, which includes the money for this agreement and this proposal, et cetera. But it doesn't mean that they approve the actual proposal, just that they approve the money for whatever. And so it doesn't mean that it's an okay. Anyways, that means it could take longer. So the team clearly would like them to get this done by the July 15th deadline. Multiple members of the DC Council have told me, I think they've said stuff publicly, that would be very, very difficult. Like they didn't get the mayor's budget until shortly after Memorial Day. Typically they get it in early April. So it's really expedited everything, including the agreement between the team and the city to build a stadium at RFK. This could linger. It's funny because again, the team still thinks like they want them to hit that July 15th deadline. They're really pushing that. I talked to somebody today who was like, just kind of chuckled at the thought of getting it done or having it agree or having that done by that deadline. I think they're all bracing for something later. So that could mean end of July, it could mean August, it could mean even into the fall. And so the great fear would be that if it gets pushed to even later than that. I don't know that it will. And then what does the team do? Those are all things to watch. But at this point, that July 15th deadline, I think it's going to be tough to hit for sure. And then it's just a matter of what point does it get done and what does that do to the Commanders' plans for building at RFK, because they are really dead set on opening a stadium by 2030. And if you want to get some of these major events, you want to start planning for some of those now and knowing how long it might take to do it, to build a stadium for sure. So anyways, that's a little update there. That's enough for me. Here's my conversation with Eric Bickel from the Junkies on 106.7 The Fan. All right, EB. Well, I want to start with this. So when I get everybody on Zoom, I've got to send the emails to people. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that I'm not the only person using an AOL account. That was very pleasing to me
Absolutely.
because everybody's like, why do you still have an AOL account? Because that's where I have it. Like it's like your address, right? You can live in the same
Yeah.
house, the same address, but right?
No, I mean, plus all my contacts are in
Yeah.
there, and
Yes.
I mean, I have an obligatory Gmail that I need for my phone and stuff, but I don't use it. I use my AOL account. Yeah, I've had it for 30 years now, and that's what I use. Why would I change? It's fine.
That's how I am. And I have an ESPN account. That's for work. AOL is for like I
Right?
have like you said, I have contacts that go back years that I would lose if I didn't have it. And 90% of it
Yeah.
is that's where I put my junk mail. I have a Gmail account, which I always forget the password. I have a Verizon account somewhere,
Yep.
which I have for a couple of decades I haven't used it because I have no clue how to get in there. So it's
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, John. I'm getting so old now that I'm almost out on email because everything's just junk.
yeah,
Anytime I purchase something, I'm
yeah,
now on their
yeah.
mailing list, and I'm just telling friends, frankly, just text me. I
That
mean,
yeah.
it's a pain in the butt.
I get a lot of things from Paul Frederick, Charles Tyrwhitt, all sorts of clothing places. And like, and now I can see how many, like I trash a message, like you're trashing 15 of these emails from the same place. So, but yes, like what it's for as much anymore. It's where I get a couple things and then 95% of it's probably junk. So but
It is junk.
I appreciate having another AOL brother on here. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Now we're holding strong.
There you go. So I am curious, like with the Commanders, you've been doing this a long time with the radio and all that.
Yeah.
What is it like now is it back yet for you where it was in terms of what you guys feedback you get from listeners or anything like that?
Well, listen, look, we've been doing this show almost 30 years now.
Right.
And through the entirety of it, we've never really had this. We had the moments,
Mhm.
right? Jay would have a winning year or two. And, obviously 2012 was super exciting. And then it all fell apart. But we've never had this. So even last year, halfway, it was kind of hard for me to accept it. Like, we're actually pretty good. It wasn't until about three quarters through the way of the season where I was like, you know what? Maybe maybe we will like compete for the division. Maybe we will actually get to the playoffs. Maybe we will actually win a few games. It was really, really hard for me. And I think some of the fans, especially the younger ones, were quicker to jump on board.
Right.
But some of us that have been around for a long, long time, I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Did not expect to win all of those close games down the stretch. Did not see that coming at all. And so I'm almost kind of bracing myself this year. Like, like, can we have nice things 2 years in a row? I don't know. Back in the day, I used to expect it. Now I'm cautiously optimistic though.
What broke you in the past? Like what was the area it's like, I don't know that it'll either could ever sustain, right? Like, and I know this is a different group, but was there what broke you in the past?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, John. I was in denial for a long time, especially with Dan as the owner, because people have been calling for him to kind like that he needs to go, and I just thought I looked back at other owners, in Arizona or in other spots. I said, well, they can, they found ways to win and maybe even get to a Super Bowl or something. We can do this. I don't know when it finally broke me, but the last 3 or 4 years, it finally did dawn on me. You know what? We never are going to win with this guy, and he'll probably outlive me, and we're just doomed. So when we were able to finally kind of have a regime change and bring in the new crew, it was kind of stunning for me, frankly, and I wasn't quite ready for the immediate success. I mean, the Jaden Daniels thing just changed the entire equation
Right.
for everything, right? Um, so I can't remember what your question was, but I
What
do
was there a
know
moment that
that
broke you? Yeah.
over the last 4 or 5 years, I just gave up. I
Yeah.
just kind of gave up and expected the worst every offseason, every draft, every coaching maneuver. I just expected the worst.
So is it just Jaden that has changed your mind here?
It's a big part of it.
I mean, yes, it
I mean,
has to be.
obviously Terry, it has to be. I mean, Jaden is just everything, and Terry too. But Terry, can only be as good as the players around him, right? He still needed that leader, that quarterback to help get him the ball and to lead this football team. I gotta say, I've been super impressed with Quinn. I like the hiring of him. I didn't know that it would kind of take off the way that it has. I didn't know as much about Peters. I just knew
Mhm.
that he was, highly regarded. Um, and Harris, when he came in, I mean, anybody was better than Dan. I kind of took that
Right.
approach. I didn't take the approach that he is this like savior that's going to save us. I just thought he's better than Dan. And let's see, because right, he's had franchises and organizations that have struggled too, right? It's
Right.
not easy being an owner. Um, but I think it's sort of the comp so far, man. John, almost everything they've touched has kind of worked out. The only one I can kind of look at from afar and again kind of question to this day is I'm still not sold on the Lattimore deal. Let's see how that plays out. But almost everything else, I mean, they're fine. They're squeezing extra years out of guys, getting career years out of guys. The draft picks so far look really. I mean, the reports on this class already look pretty good. The Amos reports look amazing. I don't know. I'm kind of all in at this point.
Is it, is it, because I still find it, and I'm obviously very close to this. I still find it at times a bit surreal how much has changed. And it's funny because I was thinking about this yesterday. It's been 5 years since that summer of gloom and doom and disaster, name change, allegations,
Hmm.
Rivera's cancer. Like
Yeah.
that summer, like every day for about 2 months, I worked because something always happened, right? But is it still hard to fathom how much has changed in such a short time?
Oh yeah, completely. Um, And like I say, I'm still kind of pinching myself, and I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. But I think, provided they can get this Terry situation worked out and they can get the group in that they expect to have in, I expect to have another successful season, even though the schedule looks obviously more difficult. Um, I think they have, man, the Jaden thing is just so massive because it's a
Right,
piece you can build around for a decade.
right,
And as long as the kid can stay healthy, seems to have his head on straight. I mean, the thing I'm most impressed with is the work ethic
yeah,
beyond the sheer athleticism, right? When you have that athleticism, John, and that work ethic, that's where real greatness comes,
right, right,
right? I mean, I don't want to put him in that stratosphere yet, but the LeBrons, the Tigers, all those guys, they outworked everybody. The Kobe's, so they had the gift, but they had the work ethic, they had the grind, and he appears to have that, man. So he just really changes everything. The question we kind of kicked around this week, even, which is kind of fun, is would he have this success if Dan was still the owner? And I don't know. I think
right,
Dan might have found a way to screw it up. Might have had the wrong coach. Might have surrounded him with the
right.
wrong people. Might have empowered him too much. Might have had him on the private jet all over the. I mean, who knows? You know what I mean? Um,
Mhm.
so clearly the other pieces need to be in place, but it's all built around Jaden.
Right. And that's an interesting topic because they could have gotten him, but then to me, it's what they're doing around him. Like the way they built up the offensive line, some of the moves they made.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think they would have gone the same route. Like it just because with Dan, like there was always going to be a way to find a way to screw it up. And there was like I
Oh,
would
for
tell
sure.
people like just like you said with Arizona, well, hey, they've gotten lucky with at times, right? They'd have a good year, but can you sustain success? And I never thought with Snyder that they ever could because he couldn't get out of his own way and he would intervene too much or whatever. That's why with Harris and Peters and this group, I think they can sustain success. And that's where I'd say it's dramatically different for that reason. So, for fans, like I would think you can see that.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, fans are super optimistic. The thing that scares me is I think they're doing all the right things. I can't think of anything else that I would change, really. I mean, on the whole, like from afar, it just seems great. But are we going to be able to pull off these like sort of six last possession wins and Hail Marys? I mean, you can't expect that, right? I mean,
Right.
you're driving the rough and you got a great lie. It's not going to happen every time, right?
Right.
You're going to be in a divot. You're going to have a tough lie. Like, are we going to be able to close all these games out? I doubt it. So there could be a little bit of slippage here. But they're totally in the right direction. The Connerly pick kind of shocked me. I didn't see that coming. I know you saw it more than others. But I like it. I like the idea around it. Just kind of like everything that they're doing just kind of makes sense. And that's what I'm excited about.
It also, because I also wonder just because you guys hear from a lot of fans too, right? And so I'm curious, like the reaction over the last 5 years and just what it's been like. Do you feel like it's back to where it was, or do you feel like it's still getting there?
I think it's still getting there, but it's getting pretty close. Look, in our tenure, again, over the last 30 years or so, I've
Right.
been doing this about
Right.
29 years now. Really, the highlight was 2012. How kind of embarrassing is that? I mean, that really
Right.
was the
Right.
fever pitch of over the last 29 years, and that was just like a moment in time. I mean, heck, would they start out 3-6 that year?
Yeah.
Before they kind of turned it around. That wasn't even a great year from start to finish.
No.
It just got exciting there towards the end, and then turned into a catastrophe. Um, so I don't think I'm not there where I was in, say, even in the early 90s where the joke was, well, Washington fans always think they're going to the Super Bowl, right? We always thought that. Well, of course, what did we go to, 4 Super Bowls in the 80s or whatever? I mean, I'm not there yet, but it's the closest I've ever been by far. And I think fans are, I think a lot of, especially young people, they're all in. They don't see any downside. I mean, they're just ready for this to roll.
Which is still, it's funny because obviously I've been doing this about as long as you guys been on the air. And I would tell people, well, 2012 was the most fun I've had. But you're right, like from start, last year was the first year my time on the beat where it was start to finish a really good year. Now, 99 was close to that,
Yeah.
but they start off with such a bad game against Dallas. But like this team lost first game, but like that year was they were good all year. This was the first year though, start to
Hmm.
finish, it was just about football, and they were good the whole time, just about the whole time from game two on.
Was that Norv? Was
That
that
was North.
Norv in
That's the year they
99?
won the title, but they gave up like I can't remember, it was like 50 points, 45 points to Dallas, and 500 some yards of offense. And that was the year where Snyder puts the cup of ice cream outside Mike Nolan's door, the vanilla defenses, et cetera. So there was always something else going on.
Right, right.
They win the division, but there was the awkward hug between Norv and Snyder. Norv after the year was telling people he wanted to get out of here. So like it was never this
Mm,
rosy thing. Last year was the first time in 30 years. That was the first time start to finish. Hey, this is a good team.
right,
And I'll say this, like
right.
you hit it on the head with him. We can see the athleticism and all that. Where I like even last spring, I was sold on him because of what I heard about him behind the scenes. And it wasn't fake stuff, right? Sometimes you hear like, oh yeah, he's working hard. It was specific examples of his work that convinced me like this kid's going to be really good. And Logan
Right.
Paul had him on one time. He's like, working this way doesn't guarantee you'll be great, but you can't be great without working this way.
Right, right. Key ingredient.
And have you felt about a player the way you felt about him as far as the hope he provides when,
Well, I did for RG3. I have to admit, the hype
I think a lot
surrounding it.
did.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing like it really. I'd venture to say that pre-draft and everything, the RG3 stuff was even bigger than the
I,
Jaden.
I agree.
I mean, people are driving around with RG3 license plates, I believe, before he was even selected,
Yeah.
and certainly before he played a game. I went on the air and it was a goof, and I'm trying to be entertaining and be, controversial, but I called him our Jesus and
Yeah.
bus proof, and he had all the things because I thought he did have all the things, right? He had the engaging personality. He gave you the right answers. He wasn't necessarily maybe doing his part on that back end of it, but he gave you the right talking
Right.
points.
Right.
He had an
Right.
enthusiasm. I thought he was going to bring everybody together, and it just turned into a catastrophe. This kid, though, it just seems more genuine. What I
Mhm.
really also am impressed by, James Wood has the same thing too. It's just kind of they're kind of not unfazed by it all.
Right.
Jaden will go out there and have this unbelievable series, this unbelievable, possession, and then he sits down there on the bench and he's just kind of chilling. Just completely unfazed by it. And you just see that time after time after time, even after wins. He's just, sure he's happy, of course, but he just keeps it all in a perspective. It's not bigger than anything. I've just been blown away literally by the complete package that the kid has. My only question was, and I think a lot of people was the ability to stay healthy. And maybe I'm taking that for granted, but he kind of eased my concerns with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the season progressed. Right or wrong, he kind of did.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the funny thing is, like, part of the reason he has a humility about him that I haven't seen a lot, oftentimes at that position, right? And some of
Yeah.
that goes back to like you talk to people who are close to him, like they can still needle him the same way they did in high school. Like he's not above any of that. Like he enjoys that. He enjoys like, okay, you're 27 for 30. Dude, you missed three throws. What's going on? Like, and he doesn't, you know what I mean? He's not bigger than that. And
Right.
I think that's a great quality to have. And it's good in the locker room. It translates well, but I think it also translates to success because he doesn't put himself above anything. You watch him at these like award shows, you watch him at the Fanatics Fan Fest. He doesn't like necessarily having all this spotlight on him. He understands it, he respects it, he whatever.
Right.
But it's not what he's looking for. Make sense?
Right. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think he seeks it out. I think this kid just loves to play football.
Yeah.
He loves to go out there and compete. And all the other I don't think he's in other words, some guys I think might do it for the wrong reasons.
Mhm.
They might do it for the fame and the money and everything. I think he loves all that. Who doesn't love like the extra money and all the ability to do things? But I don't think that's why he does it, right? I don't know. You got to give credit to his parents. His mom
Yeah.
gets a hard time for people, but they've done a great job raising him.
For sure, absolutely. The other thing is, and I want to go back to an interview you guys had with Dan Quinn. It's the first time I thought like, okay, Jaden's the guy going to be is most likely the guy here. It's that when you guys did the word association with Quinn, I think it was like in February maybe.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
what do you remember about that? Because I remember you asked him about him. He said game changer. Like, all right,
Yeah. That was. Yeah. Well, what's really struck me is what he said about Caleb.
yes.
Don't remember exactly. He might have just said, but it was
DC.
very like
He said
generic.
DC.
It was like local.
Yeah,
Yeah.
DC.
It's like,
That's what he
that's
said.
it?
Yeah.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And then he was just kind of like it was just kind of breathtaking when he said game changer. Like he was all in right there. We really read a lot into it when
Oh,
he said that, you know. The other tell was when did they sign Mariota? That was before the draft too, right? Is
yeah.
that before the
Yeah.
draft?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, but and we were like, well, is that a tell? Because it kind of a similar style mobile quarterback. And later like DQ admitted to either us or somebody that kind of was a little bit of a tell. Like it was kind of the thought process.
Well, they knew that, like they like Jaden, especially this is in, you don't know at the time because they're not telling you everything, right? But you kept hearing
Yeah.
Jaden. So in hindsight, like at the time, because Drake May's athletic too, and what they didn't know for sure is what would Chicago do. So when they signed Mariota, they didn't know what Chicago was going to do for sure, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until you got closer, into April or whatever. But they are similar, and when they signed him, like I wondered about him, right? I didn't think it was this great move
Mm-hmm.
because some of the things, but it has been a great move for them, and it does mesh well with Jane Daniels. And the other one was I had an interview with Quinn at the owners' meetings where I asked him like, okay, you're a defensive minded coach. What do you look for? Like, what's hard to defend? He goes, a guy that can handle post snap looks. And then I said, okay, what do you like
Mm-hmm.
about these quarterbacks? I asked him about Jane. He said, what do you like about him? His processing speed and how he handles post snap looks. Like, okay, game changer plus this equals it's a wrap. And it was just about like, but I do
Oh
think
yeah.
Mariota, I think you add it all up, game changer, Mariota, that, and it's like, well, they were dropping clues all along, and you just had to, piece it together. But the game changer one for me was like, you don't say that if you don't think that this is the guy. Like, what do you want as a quarterback? A game changer. Like but it was,
Totally.
I don't, but we weren't like the other thing. You'd be like, you're not used to a guy maybe being that direct about it and thinking like, are they really saying, you know what I mean? Like that's the only thing I hesitate.
I
Like,
think he didn't. I think he later admitted he kind of goofed a little bit. That he gave away a little too
yeah,
much. To be
yeah.
honest, you get the sense though that if they had won, they would have taken Jaden,
Oh, I
and I think it
definitely
would have been
think
the
that.
right
Yeah.
call for this
Yeah.
group. Yeah,
Oh, a
yeah.
thousand percent. Because what I was told too is it was Jaden, and then they were deciding number two between Caleb and JJ, and it wasn't between because the whole thing was is it Jaden or Drake May, and that I think they liked him. They liked others better because I remember someone
Mm-hmm.
telling me like, hey, listen, like they could see all these quarterbacks that they brought in and Caleb being really good because it was such a good class. But yes, I do believe, and they did say Jaden was number one on the board, but they also would say you're doing that because you know Chicago's probably going to pick Caleb. On the other hand, I agree with you. I think that he still would have been the pick here. You guys
Yeah.
have had some good guests from this team over the years. Who have been some of your favorites that you guys have had as your guests?
Some of them we had them, and then we kind of had to stop having them because they gave it like Clinton Portis was amazing, but I think the team wasn't super happy about that because we kind of we were younger and getting into some stuff maybe the team wasn't excited about. But he was great.
Yeah,
Santana, when he was kind of in his heyday, he was great. Grant and Danny and those guys, they always had Kirk on. That was always must
yeah,
listen
yeah.
stuff. That was really good. Look, we had John Allen on for years. I always thought he was interesting and insightful and honest. But frankly, we didn't have a great relationship with the team on the whole because when Dan owned them, he also owned 980, which
Right,
was at that
right.
time. Now we own both, my company, Odyssey. And Dan's kind of mind, it was a competition instead of, yeah, embrace this other, station that's pretty impactful here in the area, and we can really help promote the team. He wasn't really that interested in it. So I know professionally, from our standpoint, that's also been a great thing, having new ownership and having the team be open to having guys on and having the coaches on, and we don't have to go through agents and third parties to get guys. But frankly, it's not like I have a long litany
Right.
of guys like in the prime of their careers that were amazing, to be honest.
And I do remember when Clinton was on there, and you'd always have to listen to Clinton because you never knew what he was going to say. And do you
Oh,
remember any?
totally.
Yeah, do you remember anything that may have gotten him in trouble?
Well, I mean, I think he talked about a party maybe in his basement or something, and stripper poles, and
That's
you
right.
know what I mean. I
Yeah,
mean, I think yeah, I think Clinton was wild. And they had a good time. Um, and sometimes I feel bad because we would lead guys in not to get him in trouble, but just because it was fun, to get
that's
the
your
details of
show.
what was going on.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but that's why, like, I had Clinton on the other day, and it's like, Clinton and Deshaun is not a coaching pairing that I ever saw happening, right? But he was really good. Like the one
Right.
thing I've always liked about Clinton, he's really good. Like he doesn't run from whatever's in his background. Like he'll just say, "Yeah, I did this, and this is what I tell them," right?
Mhm.
Like he doesn't try to hide anything. It
Oh
doesn't,
yeah.
you know. That's why I've always liked talking to him.
No, no.
So
Oh,
what?
totally. Totally. Love guys like that.
Yeah, of course. What else are you looking forward to seeing this season? Like, is there anyone else that, like you're wondering about that you feel, okay, this guy does this, they could do really well.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I want to see the addition of Debo. Like, what version of Debo do we have?
Mhm.
I know the coaches seem to be raving about him. They love what they're seeing so far. Can he stay healthy? Can he be that impactful player that has, two or three really, really big plays per game? I'm hoping he can. Touch it more than that, but really a couple big plays per game. I'm hoping for that. I like some of the skill guys. Like I'm intrigued by the kid they drafted from Virginia Tech,
Yeah.
frankly. Returning kicks, and I'm excited for that. Amos is getting unbelievable reports, man. Is
Looks
he going to
good.
be able to step in and for like from day one and really change things? And frankly, I'm really intrigued by what Kinlaw is going to do to this defense because they're banking a lot on
Yeah.
Kinlaw, right? It
Yeah.
seems like he's kind of like the center of it. And so there's so many sort of exciting pieces. That's what I am also excited about because they did so well last year, and yet I feel like we've added to it. So our competition will be better, and we're not going to probably sneak out all these one possession games at the very end. But I feel like we're going to score every bit as many points as we did last year. And then I feel like we're going to be better defensively. I don't see what's not to be excited about.
Right.
I'm even excited about that. Have you seen him make any plays? The receiver that they signed as a free agent from Ole Miss, I forget his
You're
name,
talking about Ja'Cory
but there's
Brooks
a receiver they signed from.
from
Yes,
Ja'Cory Brooks.
yes.
Yeah.
Did he do anything yet?
Nah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
Nothing
would
yet
pump the brake. I would pump the brakes a little bit on that one because I think they have pretty good depth at receiver. I think he'd be a good guy in the
for
practice
sure.
develop. But he's got
Yeah,
some,
yeah, yeah.
and we'll see.
Perfect.
But it's funny because there were years like the difference between this group and the last group is it seems like it's trust, right? Like because they hit on some things and they won, you can trust, well, you don't know what this means, but I trust them. There were times where in the past where like Bruce
Hmm.
Allen, those guys would sign somebody and the automatic assumption was it's a bad move. No matter what, no matter, you know what I mean? Like it just felt like if it was a
Right.
fringe move, it must be the wrong move. And I'm like, well, they're 500
Right.
for a reason because some of those hit, but it was just always the assumption was not a good move. And now it
Well,
seems like,
that's the thing, especially with Kinlaw, right? That's the one move that
yeah,
everybody questioned. Why are you giving this guy so much money, right? And then you listen to him, and I think they know exactly what they've got.
oh, definitely.
Um, I think they know exactly what they've got, and they've got a specific plan for him. Whether it'll work out, who knows? But I think there's a reason why they did it. I think they're going to build around him, and I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic.
And that the reason is because they feel he's ascending. They feel he's healthy. He's been healthy for a year or so. That they feel like there have been years in the past where he's had like multiple years where he's been hurt. In their eyes, he's ascending. We'll see. So, what are your expectations then
Hmm.
for this season?
Uh, they're, they're probably higher than I had thought they would be, to be honest with you, John. I think the early part of the schedule, they have an opportunity to jump out in front and get some momentum. I'm not saying it will happen,
Right.
but I kind of like the first 5 or 6 games. I mean, I think they got a realistic shot at maybe being 4-2 or something like that to get off to a good start, build some momentum, and then see where we go from there. I think they've got an opportunity to win double-digit games.
Mhm.
Who knows, right? We could be
Right.
better. We could score more and still not pull out the
Why not?
W's like we did last year. Very fortunate. I think the big question is, how are they going to match up against like Philly? How are they going to be able to stop guys like Saquon? I mean, nobody really stops them, but are they going to be able to? That's what I think. What I've gleaned from afar is they're trying to figure out ways to stop Saquon,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I think if they can make some inroads there, squeeze a few extra offensive possessions, slow them down a little bit. I think they got a good chance to succeed, get to the playoffs, and then who knows what can happen. I
So
think they've got
last,
a real shot at it.
oh, and I think with number five, if you get to the playoffs, whoever plays you is going to. And I thought this last year, like nobody wanted to play them because of Jaden.
Right,
And now I think that'll be the
right,
same thing as
right.
long as he's in the league. That will be the fear of
Yeah.
any team playing him to play. So the last thing is, speaking of Jaden, it's funny because I don't pay a lot of attention to these kind of lists, but I'm curious if you do, where you see guys come out and like they list their top 10 quarterbacks and he's not on there. Does
Hmm.
that annoy you? Like, how do you process? Do you care? Is it just like a talking point for radio or?
Yeah. So it's interesting because last week somebody had him on a list. They had him five, right? Which
Mhm.
I said at the time was, man, that's great. I like, and by the way, I don't think there's any planet where you could expect to see him higher than five, right? The guys
Right.
ahead of him, Allen,
Right.
Mahomes,
Mhm.
Jack. I mean, those guys are
Buffalo.
studs.
Yeah.
What a quarterback era that we're in, by the way,
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
Everybody assumed after Brady and Breeze and all these guys moved on that we were going to have this. No, we are in an incredible quarterback era. Well, I think we talked about it today. Yahoo came out with a couple lists, and Jaden wasn't in the top 10 of any of them. That's fine. He did it 1 year, you know.
Yep.
So he's gonna have to back it up. He's gonna have to do it again. I'm not gonna get too overly defensive about it, and because I think he's gonna prove it.
Yeah. I do too.
Where do I think he ranks? I don't know. Based on what he did last year, maybe anywhere in that 5 to 8 range or something. You could reasonably maybe make an argument. But even that's kind of high. Let's see him back it up, do it again. The fact is, I think they've got their guy for the next 10, 12 years. And
Right.
I think they've got their guy they could absolutely win a Super Bowl with.
I definitely agree. I had someone close to him tell me before it was right after the draft, like he's going to win them a Super Bowl within 5 years. Like, and this guy's been convinced of that.
Wow.
So, but
Wow.
but I will say, like, and just to close this out but I appreciate you coming on. I was back up in Cleveland the other day,
Thank you.
just visiting family and all that. And you're listening to the discourse about like from the Browns mini camp and like reading the stories about the quarterbacks. I'm like, holy crap! Like thank God for this fan base that they're not there where they're trying to talk themselves into could Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders be their franchise guy? I'm like, all right, this reminds me of can Taylor Heineke be that guy? Can Sam Howell be that guy? Can
Yeah.
Carson Wentz resurrect his career here or continue to be that guy? And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's finally like real hope that not only if you got that guy, but like you said, for the next dozen years, most likely. So that I just thought it was an
Oh yeah, it's
interesting,
exciting time.
yeah, it is. So, anyways, EB, thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it. And I always enjoy going on with
Oh,
you
thank
guys. So
you.
thanks a lot, man. That's it for this episode. Thanks to EB for joining me, and thank you for tuning in. I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode starting just a month long, 2 podcasts a week until we start training camp. Then it'll be every day. There you go. Anyways, I'll talk to you next time.